We can go ahead and get started.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you everybody for being here to this November. Okay, there we go. Thank you for being here at our November 14th meeting of the Recreation Committee for the City of Charleston. Really probably the first cold morning of the fall, so I hope you wore your jacket out this morning. I'm not looking forward to more cold mornings. Some of you may be, but of course we got Thanksgiving. I think it's 10 days away. Christmas is about 40 days away, and before we know it, 2022 will be in our rearview mirror. So thank you all for taking so much of your personal time to be on the committee today. We'll start with a moment of silence, and if you'll be in silent prayer, if you'll remember the students, athletes, and family members up at the University of Virginia, including the family of the young man here from the Low Country. So if we would take a moment of silence, please. Amen. Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda is the approval of our September 6, 2020 meeting minutes. I have a motion to approve those minutes, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have approval in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Those have been approved, and I know that you remember as part of our Parks and Recreation Master Plan was that we were going to hire an enterprise manager, and at our last meeting, Lori announced that we had hired an enterprise manager now, and I'm going to call on Lori Yarborough to introduce him to our committee, if you would, Lori.
Thank you, Chairman Shealy. I appreciate that. Very happy to introduce to folks Justin Braddock. Justin has been with us now for about a month. I think I heard him tell somebody yesterday or today at a meeting. But Justin comes to us. He has a South Carolina background. And he's worked in Charleston before, but he comes to us directly from Tampa, where he was working in the U.S. Soccer League office. And he's got a soccer background, a sports background, but more importantly, he's got a business background having to do with sports and businesses, and just brings a lot of energy and excitement to the table. I think we're all excited to work with him. And Justin, I'm going to be quiet now and let you introduce yourself and say a few words. But again, we're all very happy to have him. I have not told Justin that he has to bring in a bunch of money really fast. Councilmember Shealy, I'm trying to break him in slow, so don't scare him. Okay. So Justin, at this time, you'll introduce yourself.
And I don't see him on the screen.
He's
Laura.
not on the call. He has the link. Let me make sure he's on. Give me 1 second.
I thought he might have been in the room with you. No.
He actually has his own computer, so I'll if I have to grab him though, I will. Hang on, let me find him.
Okay.
Councilmember Shealy?
Yes. Councilmember Parker.
In this brief moment while she's gone, can y'all tell me just is he going to explain that, what his role is?
Yeah, I think he's going to go over that a little bit, as well.
Yeah, he's here. I gave him, we threw a curveball with him on time. I'm gonna let him sit in my chair and introduce himself. Councilmember Parker, he is still figuring out some of the culture of our city. So I don't think he knows exactly what his next 12 months are going to look like, but he'll tell you what he's working on and what his thoughts are. Here you go.
Hi, how you doing, sir?
Great, Justin. Thank you for joining us.
Sorry for being late, but it's a pleasure to be here. I'm grateful for this opportunity to start this new position. To give you a little update on my progress right now. Since October 17th, first off, I've just tried to integrate myself into community. I was last here in Charleston for my first job 9 years ago, and the landscape has changed tremendously. So as I continue to make contacts here in the local community, I'm also trying to reevaluate the current status of the departmental programs that we offer here at the Recreation and start creating a pricing policy guide that will serve as sort of a benchmark for our programs moving forward, taking into consideration the level of benefit as well as cost of benefit. So once we get that in place, we're also going to reevaluate and update our sponsorship package while increasing our sellable assets at facilities, as well as trying to capitalize on our current programs that are currently not bringing in any source of revenue. So I think those are low-hanging fruit with those programs that we can easily bring in a strategic partner to assist and offset some cost, as well as provide some additional revenue opportunities. Hopefully here by the end of the year, I will be able to provide a 2023 and 2024 business pro forma with some targets and reasonable projections. And then also just the path to growth within this position and the partnership.
Talk about the World Cup.
Yeah, so as Lori mentioned, I did launch a digital campaign working with some local restaurants and bars to help support the World Cup, using that as an opportunity to attract our adult sports market. It's the target clientele for all of them. So currently generated $750 in revenue. The only thing we provide for them is a digital asset on our webpage, recognizing them as a place to watch the World Cup. In addition, we are going to capitalize further next week at Stony Field by hosting a World Cup viewing party for kids from Arthur Christopher and St. Julian Divine in partnership with the Charleston Battery. So the Battery will be sending out some players and staff to interact with the kids. We are partnering with Chick-fil-A Savannah Highway to provide lunch to these kids. And then we'll be hosting a match on our big inflatable screen and just try to interact and engage with these kids, showing them sort of the socioeconomic barriers the World Cup can tear down.
Very good. All right. Any questions for Justin? Councilmember Parker?
Hey, nice to meet you. Welcome to the city of Charleston.
Hi, Caroline. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So can you tell me a little about, and you may or may not know this may be a question for Lori, but so your position, I mean, your job is to bring in sponsors for our recreation programs and teams?
So this position, from my understanding, is to, one, find strategic partners, whether that is bringing in revenue for these teams and facilities or offset some of our current expenditures, as well as creating a strategic marketing and sales guideline. I think it's highly important. I come from the professional sporting world, where your three targets is always the product on the field, the publicity, and then the revenue. I see it as a circular strategy, as without the publicity and the revenue, you can't increase the product on the field, which is our programmings. The larger our programmings are and the more detailed, the more kids we are able to reach and the greater community impact we can have. So it takes all three, with the publicity and the strategic partners, to be able to increase our programming.
Okay. So as far as current sponsorships go, people that we're trying to reach for sponsoring our youth teams, getting our volunteers, what are we doing for them currently?
So right now, our offerings are specifically towards the youth teams. Each facility during the sign up and registration of youth sports seasons sort of offer a team sponsorship, $250, get your family business on the front of your t-shirt, whatever, for the season. In addition, we do have some larger partners with Harris Teeter, Roper, and Dick's Sporting Goods that offer a lot of VIK as well. And then we provide some assets with signage around our facilities.
So that's
Lori
basically,
hopping in.
that's what Justin's inherited. So that's what we
Right.
already have. We're not gonna change the structure really. We're still gonna make it affordable, Councilmember Parker, for a business to be able, on James Island, to be able to, put their logo on the kids' T-ball shirts and walk around and everything. That'll still be $250. This is going to be an enhancement to that level and that layer of sponsorships we already have. Right now, we're currently collecting around $50,000 to $60,000 in financial sponsorships without Justin. And we're putting that money straight back into the revenue, into the general fund for our programs.
Okay,
Because certainly when you pay $30 to play a sport for 9 weeks, we don't have to recover some cost. So Justin's going to be doing things like working on other types of sponsorships, like the idea of watch parties for the World Cup. That's not something I've ever had anybody go out and work with businesses on. We've never had anybody work with a 5K run series to develop a running series and do it on our facilities and pay us to do it. So we just feel like from the Parks and Rec master plan, it identified some areas in our city that we have not had the staff and the resources to go try to find partners with it. And that's going to be Justin's, his real deal is trying to figure those out. And right now he's trying to see what all do we offer, what all do we have. He knows we just had a fishing festival one day at Colonial Lake. Well, he's already got the idea of what about all these companies here in Charleston that have located Free Fly and Huck and some of those other fishing companies. How do we bring them in and make that event bigger, bring in revenue, make it a better experience for the families that take part. So those are the kind of things he's looking at right now as he's getting started.
okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And yeah, maybe that's an Amy question, but so 50 to 60K for the year, and it's all going back in.
Well, that's what we've been doing. We've been bringing in that much money. So when you see on the back of our Parks and Recreation program guide, when you see the Harris Teeter page, they're already paying money to be a premier presenting sponsor. The folks that are already paying $250 to be on the front of the t-shirt, those folks are still paying. We're bringing that in now. This is going to be additional money. And I know that Tom O'Rourke, our consultant, felt like there was probably, maybe $100,000 to $200,000 out there that we're not getting because we don't even have the staffing and the expertise to go get it. So we're hoping that Justin's going to be able to go out and do that. I'm not trying to get him to bring in $200,000 tomorrow. I don't want to think that we've hired him as a professional salesperson, but we believe that our product is good enough and what we do in this community is important enough that there are businesses that will align their mission with ours and want to be a part of things.
Well, perfect. I agree with that. So,
Yes.
So please keep us posted on what you come up with.
I'm looking forward to seeing what all he comes up with. He's hard to keep up with these days.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
All right. Any other questions for Justin? Justin, we are very excited to have you. So thank you. And if there's anything this committee can do to help you, please reach out to us. All of our committee members will be glad to help any way we can. So best of luck with everything. And like I said, we're here to help you if you need us. So
Thank you so much, sir. I greatly appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. All right. So we'll move on to our next.
No, you're fine.
Here, let Lori get her seat back. And
Yeah, I've got it back. It's all fine. We work closely around here. He spent the last couple of weeks running around to meetings and meeting folks in our community, like Tom O'Rourke and Kathleen Cartland, who handles the Metro Sports Council and all the things here. So he went to a Cooper River Bridge Run meeting today. So he's meeting those influential people in our community right now that have partnerships, that have a handshake into a business, and we're trying to get him going in that direction. So
yeah, very good. I know Kathleen's very busy right now bringing college basketball.
Everybody was trying to get tickets from her today. So yeah.
That's right. That's right. All right. So if we could, Lori, I'll get an update on employee positions.
Sure. So I pulled a position control report into last week just so I could, give you some real solid answers. Right now, our department is at about 32% vacancies. I will tell you that the majority of those positions come in our part-time employees. And where that makes a big difference right now is in our athletic division, And all of our larger community centers, James Allen Rec Center, Bees Landing Rec Center, Daniel Allen Rec Center, Arthur W. Christopher, all of those centers are also short-staffed in these rec specialist part-time positions. And why that's important is because while we're running programs indoors, we also pull our staffing out of those facilities for outdoor programs. So when the Daniel Allen Rec Center is running volleyball night and there's a yoga class and then there's 2 other classes going on, Jen's also in charge of all of the athletics that are going on at Governor's Park right out behind her, as well as Freedom Park and Etowah Park there on Daniel Island. The same thing happens at James Island with Bayview and the James Allen Rec Center, and at Bees Landing Rec Center and West Ashley Park. So we typically have these sports programs take place at these facilities where we've got staffing, but because we're down in part-time staff and available folks, it has definitely affected our full field supervision. And all of our full-time staff are working more hours and more days than they are used to and probably should be, but they all are trying to make sure we continue to offer a safe program. We are also short-staffed in our what we call our program division. And those are our community playground buildings that are in some of our neighborhoods, like Thomas Johnson on James Island, like Forest Park in West Ashley. Downtown, there's a number of these small playground buildings around McMahon Playground and Freddie Whaley. So we normally have at least 2 people working out of each of those. Right now, we've got 1 person assigned to each. So what that means is when the community calls and says, hey, we want to use Deming Playground for one of our neighbors is wanting to have a birthday party for their 80-year-old father, I don't have staff that can work it on Saturday. So the city has always had these community buildings where you could rent them and the community and the neighborhood associations could use them. So when we're short-staffed, it means that I don't have as many people that can work and offer those services to the community. So it's definitely had an impact there. And the other place that it's had a very large impact, obviously, is aquatics. That continues to be true. Right now, we're only running MLK pool, which is the 50-meter pool. So all of our staff is located at one pool. We're doing okay. If the flu goes through that facility, we're going to be in trouble. But as long as it doesn't, we're not. But it's very difficult for us to do any kind of additional programs. We're basically there keeping the pool open and safe and following the lifeguards. But we've got 87 vacancies right now in this department, and those are mostly part-time positions. And the sad part is, even at $15 an hour, we're not getting folks to apply. So we don't have much of a pool to go in looking for new employees. So we continue to struggle in that area. We appreciate everything City Council's been talking about and looking at for the pay performance plan. I personally think it's going to make a difference if you all are able to offer that, because if you try to hire a younger employee now, they want to know what the next opportunity within this company is, or within this agency. When you say, well, we don't have any full-time openings, but so-and-so, we always have something. It just doesn't give them a clear path to why would I want to be here and work if there's no way to move myself up the ladder. And so having a performance plan with progressions and allowing folks to move out of the 3 or 4 positions that we actually have into some additional positions, it will make them be ready for the next step. And it would also, I hope, keep them here and a little more loyal to the organization. So I'm appreciative of that. I hope it's going to help. But right now, we're still not seeing a lot of folks applying for positions, especially those part-time positions in the city. And our department relies heavily on part-time positions.
Any questions for Lori on that? Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Councilmember Shealy. Thank you, Laurie. Of course, I missed all of that, so you're going to have to do it again.
You missed all of that?
So just kidding. So can you tell me a little, so some of those part-time positions, are they referees? Are there concession stands, things like that? Or how are we looking, I know we're going to kind of go down onto the participation numbers, but as far as field needs, things like that for winter.
Right. Great question. So in what I just gave you, those are called rec specialists. All of those part-time positions, whether they're at a community center or at a ball field, they're a rec specialist. And those are folks that deal firsthand with the teams, the players, the coaches, the moms, the dads, all the game officials, the umpires, referees, depending on what sport it is. They're the ones that are making sure that all of the rules are being followed in the facility and in the game, and that everything goes that way. So that's the position we're down on. We are absolutely down in having trouble finding umpires and certified referees in all sports. That's nationwide, that's everywhere. But we don't hire those as city employees. We have a contract. We use those as contractual employees. So those are not going to be reflected in those numbers that I just gave you. Those numbers that I just gave you are within our budget. They're assigned positions that have been approved by budget. We also have money in 52206, which is professional service contracts, where we contract those other kinds of officials. So they're not going to be seen in those same numbers. The lack of having snack bar workers or those kind of folks, that is going to be seen in that number. And yes, when we have James Allen Rec Center is a great example. When we have volleyball going on in the gym in the fall, and we also have all the other evening activities, and we're running sports out on the baseball fields, they don't have enough staff to put staff outside running this game and running this concession stand and running the building. They're short 8-9 positions, and they just can't do all of those places at one time. So we've had to make, as you are aware, some choices. The number one priority obviously is the activity and keeping it safe. And so we've had to let slide the concession end on some. So that's where that's why it's causing such a big problem. We usually have more employees at tackle football. Tackle football involves more children. For some reason, we tend to have a few more problems with safety and fans. We try to hire some off-duty City of Charleston police officers, but we just don't have as many employees available to work. So we're having to run it with less employees than what we would like to do, but we do it anyway. So that hopefully that kind of answers that. Our volunteer coaches, those folks are the ones that are moms and dads that when we make the phone call and say, hey, your child's been placed on a team, we're looking for a coach. We have enough of those people. People always come through in the end for us to coach because it is not a paid position, but trying to find paid field supervisors, lifeguards, and then in the contractual world of referees, umpires, and game officials, that's where we're having our biggest shortage right now.
Okay. And besides looking at a large solution, what sort of locally, on island wise, West Ashley Peninsula, as far as referees, concession workers, I've talked to you about volunteers, families, organizations volunteering for the concessions. What about age for refs, volunteer refs, or is this through the contracted company?
This is through the contract. So if someone is a minor, if they're under the age of 18, their parents can still allow them to referee and sign that contract on their behalf with the for a referee assigner. So we do have 16, 17, 18-year-old referees and umpires. I will tell you that it does not work very well, nor do those young people feel very ready to be reffing prior to that age. And there's some grownups that don't want to ref anymore. But people are very threatening and rude. We've had to call the police and have parents escorted out of facilities as they've argued with refs and followed them to their cars. It's just real hard to find folks that want to sign up for that. But we do work with our young folks who have played baseball. At James Island's a great example. Maybe they get to that high school age, they're not going to make the high school baseball team, but they love baseball. Yeah, we've had a training program where we've worked with them in the winter months so that they're ready to umpire for us in the spring months as a 16, 17-year-old. So that works for them. But the younger a person, the more you have to work with the laws as far as how many hours a day they can work and what hours they can work and how many hours they have to be, in school and those kind of things. There's just certain things that change that. There aren't that many 16-year-olds that work in the city of Charleston. Most of the other
Right.
offices are all grown up. So we're the only ones that have that. So we really have to, we have to make sure that these young folks are ready for that responsibility and that we're not taking them away from their schoolwork and all those kind of things, too many hours and following the letter of the law.
Thank you for that. I think I just meant more the Saturday morning, some of the younger,
Sure.
geared more
Sure.
towards the younger stuff, not the,
Right.
11, 12 tackle football games, things
Yeah.
like that. But okay,
Yeah,
well,
and
send
you're
me
right.
that.
We do try to use folks for that. So the other thing we've done every summer, trying to get our 13, 14-year-olds ready to be summer counselors, is we run a CTI program, which is a camp counselor in training position. And so they come and they basically volunteer, but we work with them to teach them job skills of how to be a summer day camp counselor, so that after they've done that for a year or two, they're ready to take a job in our department. And that's been a real good pathway that we've created for those 13, 14-year-olds. And we do that with umpiring also.
Okay, will you send me those 2 items, please?
Sure, happy
Okay.
to.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. And Laurie, through the service that we're using, are the officials pretty reliable? Are they showing up to games?
Councilor Shuley, we only have tried to work with those assigners that we can count on. We have made our schedules around, like for tackle football, we've made it around the JV varsity nights so that we can get game officials on a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday. We try to play games on those days, so that they're able to go do JV and varsity games on Thursday and Friday. We do some Saturdays, and some of them do want to come work. Some of them don't. Some of them have, had enough. But I know, knowing your background, that even the state association's having trouble finding folks that are to come in and start that next generation of sports officials. And so those folks that we have used, that we've been able to count on, they've been quick to call us this year and tell us that we may not be able to supply as many referees as we're used to. We struggled during our volleyball program for girls this fall to have volleyball officials. I'm going to assume that basketball is going to be a challenge. We did make one change this year for basketball, though. We went ahead and offered 4- and 5-year-old basketball in the fall, because we hear feedback all the time that there's not enough time in the gym practicing for all of our age groups. And we didn't get any new gyms built this year. So we decided to split up that gym time. So we brought the younger kids in the fall. They'll play flag football in the winter, and then we'll play basketball for the 7 to 14-year-olds. I think it'll give everybody a little more time in the gym for practices, which is the only way you're ever going to develop. So I hope that will help our refereeing needs for the winter time. But Robin Cooper's forever sending out emails on Facebook, trying to find people that grew up playing sports, have an interest in sports, somebody that's retired, somebody that's come back to Charleston. Hey, come on about. And it's not bad money. It's $30 a game in most cases, or more. So yeah, it's just making sure that we create a safe place that folks want to come serve as a referee and an umpire for us, and know that we're going to back them and keep them safe, and that you don't have parents following them out to their car threatening to do something to them for a call that was missed in some child's game.
Yeah.
And sorry, just to jump in again, and that's sort of where these Saturday mornings, especially with these younger groups, having this younger demographic of refs, if that's what you want to call them, reffing a 5-6 basketball game. I think that's something, if we're going to run into the exact same problem, unless the coaches are just going to.
Well, we do that. We ask the coaches to be on the court in those young games so that they can help position the kids, explain things. Actually, basketball is probably the hardest sport to explain to a child why you blow the whistle all the time. You can't just pick up the ball and run with it. Soccer is a lot easier to play. So basketball does require a lot of explaining to the kids as you go. Otherwise, they don't really ever develop those skills. So we count on our volunteer coaches to help us with that as well. But yes, I definitely think we can work with younger teenagers if they want to come in and do those things with us. We have the ability to use them on a Saturday. Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions before we move over to parks? If not, I'll call on Jason and ask him to kind of give us an update on employee and position updates, if he would, please.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Let me pull up my right screen here. I'll try to go through this efficiently and quickly. I know there's a lot on my future agenda as well. So currently in the Parks Department, which fluctuates daily, we have 158 funded positions with 113 filled, and that's a little deceiving. So I want to go through the divisions since we are such a varied department and our focus of work spreads across the city through capital projects, facilities maintenance, and grounds maintenance. So overall, currently we have about 29% unfilled positions. And then if you dive down into the divisions, if you look at electrical, that's electricians, HVAC techs, plumbers, and pump techs, 14 budgeted positions, 9 filled, 5 currently vacant. So that's about 36% open. Grounds maintenance, which is groundskeepers, horticulture, ball field technicians, our grounds mechanic, forestry, our landscape architect, and I'm going to get into forestry, but that's 87 budgeted positions, 82 filled, 25 vacant, which is about 29% open. One of the most critical numbers here is our forestry staff. We have 12 budgeted positions, 3 filled, 7 vacant. We don't have any crew leaders. So that's about 58.3% vacant staffing. 12 positions to cover the entire urban forest and park forest across the city. It's not a sustainable model. We're currently running 1 crew that doesn't have a crew leader. So our superintendent is currently running that crew. It's a tough position. That forestry group has been vacant more than anybody else, I think. Keep going through this. Facilities maintenance, which is custodial positions, maintenance technicians, or project managers and department managers. There are 16 budgeted, 13 filled, 3 vacant, at about 18.7% open. Our construction crews, which is our heavy equipment operator, superintendents, trades masters, carpenters, and painters. We have 14 budgeted, 7 filled, 7 vacant. So our construction crew is about 50% vacant right now. That really limits the types of small projects that we can do within city parks and facilities across the board, whether they're small bench projects, a little parking lot renovation, or a painting project, a carpentry project in one of our city facilities. So then again, capital projects, we have 2 openings of 9 budgeted, and we currently have about 50 active capital projects. They range from small renovations to large projects such as the African American Museum and the Ashley River Crossing Bridge project. So that's a lot of numbers across a lot of divisions in a very short amount of time. It's challenging, but we're getting the work done. So that's kind of the big picture for staffing in the Parks Department.
Well, thank you, Jason. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for what everybody's doing, pulling a lot of weight to make up for what we don't have. I know you can't probably speak specifics on this, but are there interviews coming in right now? Are we making any progress right now toward hiring anyone?
You know, if you look at the spreadsheet that has number of hits versus applicants, I think this is from mid last year, 3rd quarter. Of all the advertised positions, we have filled some, but as we filled some, we get some that go away. There were 79,000 hits on the website with 413 applicants.
Wow. Okay.
So just recently, we, with the help of Amy and Kay, we added a $3,000 sign-on bonus for our plumbing positions that are open, and we've gotten some good interest there. We've made some offers, so that helped. Certainly, everything that you all are working on right now at City Council will help as well. And we've got a long way to go. So we're here. We're doing a lot of work.
All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions before we move forward? Councilmember Parker?
Thank you, Councilmember Shealy. Thank you, Jason. I'm curious, let's take, for example, your forestry, your crew leader position. Do you think with the proposed pay increase, is that going to fill those spots?
We're hopeful.
But compared to your competitors, let's put it that way.
Right. The private sector is so hot right now, especially for tree work. I mean, even our contracting arborists are telling us that they can't always get right to our work, but we have some dedicated arborists out there that do. But they are so busy, they're paying their staff a lot of money. When it comes down to it, a lot of those folks don't really look at the benefits that the city provides, which are exceptional. And all of us, if you ever needed them, you're very grateful for it. So, we're hoping to get closer and hopefully attract some of those other folks to come into the city and work.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mayor Tecklenburg, did you have your hand up?
I did. I just wanted to thank Lori and Jason for the updates and for hanging in there with the staff that we do have. We've had hundreds of openings. We have this year to date net positive hired 50 or so people. So progress is being made, but we're not nearly there yet. We're hoping that the compensation pay raise due with next year's budget, as Jason mentioned, will help. But what I appreciate is, and I'm not to take anything away from the importance of stormwater, because they're an important part of city government too. But we had a lot of discussion over the last few months, and we always got back to cleaning ditches. And there's so many other aspects of our organization, from parks to recreation to sanitation, that have all been experiencing similar challenges in attracting employees, and it's good for us to all hear that. I think it's really been throughout the organization, and that's why I've been saying for some time that we all need to be recruiters for the city of Charleston. Everywhere I go, and I go a few, I always let people know we're hiring at the city of Charleston. If you're looking for employment, we have some opportunities. Hopefully after the first of the year, they'll be a little more attractive to people. But we all, as council members and mayor, we all need to be part of the recruiting team and put on your social media and your thing. Maybe you wait until January 1 when we have the new raise in place, but let's all continue to recruit employees for our city and keep building this team. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Well, thank you for that, Jason. And I know, Lori, you kind of went through volunteer numbers and needs, and you feel like your volunteers are pretty good there. I don't know if you had anything to add on that.
No, I would just say that they're the lifeblood of our program. I mean, if you look at the fact that this fall we served 7,342 kids,
Wow.
which is up another 8% from the year before. I mean, we're past our pre-COVID numbers for participation. If we didn't have those moms, those dads, those grandparents, those folks in the community that just love working with kids and want to come out and participate, if we didn't have those volunteers, we couldn't do what we do. So we are very appreciative of them and everything they give us, those hours and hours of time. We're teed up to go into winter right now, and we'll probably add some more kids because some of our downtown teams have not fully registered yet, and because we don't start games until right around January 1. We'll still have some teams come in, but we're at 3,300 kids right now for the winter programs. And that's remembering taking out almost 700 kids that played for us in the fall that normally would play in the winter, but because of our limited gym space, we carved out time for them when the gyms are a little more open. So I feel like we'll be going full throttle. It does help a little bit be going into winter. Councilmember Shealy, your assessment of Christmas coming upon us quickly and the cold weather. Jason's guys won't have to be lining fields for us in the winter months. So that is very helpful. I know to Jason, I know that he still have to mow grass and take care of grass, but they've been laying out anywhere from 90 to 110 fields every week for us to play on of different sizes and dimensions. And we will mainly be indoors in the winter months playing basketball. We do have some flag football, but it's a little smaller. So all of our gyms are in full use now with basketball teams practicing. We've still got some things going on in adult sports for the rest of this month. And then obviously our tennis courts and our swimming pool are all very, very busy and filled right now. So our numbers are great. I couldn't ask for participation of any better. And Jason's folks do a great job of taking care of those fields and getting them ready for us.
Great. Thank you, Laurie. Any questions there? Councilmember Saffron.
Thank you, Chairman Shealy. Two things. One, Laurie, I just want to say my son just finished basketball at Arthur Christopher, and the coach was great, but the ref that y'all have down there was exceptional. I'm not sure of his name. Older African-American gentleman, probably in his 60s, built like he's in his 20s.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. I think that's Romy. So yeah, he does a great job. And we've got some folks like that have been in our gyms and on our ball fields for years, and it makes that program.
He was amazing. He had the parents up and, yelling and screaming before the game, clapping. But that was the type of experience that we hope that we can continue. And I guess my second question is with the enterprise manager, I think a lot of times the challenge is like the systems that we have currently in place. So for signing up for student participation, is that something that you're all thinking about tweaking when that sign up sheet, the data that you all get? For example, if you're a parent and you're signing up, is there a way for a parent to notate that they want to coach or also be a sponsor? And then getting that data and then sharing that data with the appropriate people. So is there a thought about revising or rethinking the sign up?
Absolutely. We have the ability, since the city did invest in the Rec Track registration program, we have the ability to cull all of that information. A lot of our parents or a lot of our coaches coach season to season. We know that, but yes, we can extrapolate. Are you interested in being a sponsor? Do you want to coach? Would you like to be a referee? We do get that information at time of registration as well. So we'll continue to share that information with all of our athletic coordinators.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. And I guess, Jason, like a parks and facilities update, if you would, please.
So I got another long list here. I'll try to go through it so I don't keep you guys too long. So this goes back a couple months just because we haven't done this in a while. Facility staff, we've working with our staff landscape architect, we installed a new playground at Fort Johnson Harborview Park. And I'm going to go over some kind of some passive and active parks stuff that all relate to recreation. We've started soffit repairs at the Herbert Hazel Pool Building, received bids for the Hazel Parker Playground Building roof replacement, which was deferred for a couple of years due to COVID. Painted backboards at Ferguson Village and James Allen Rec Center basketball, repaired bleachers at James Allen Rec Center, pressure washed Mary Yeatsey tennis courts, replaced front door of the Hazel Parker Playground, installed punching bags and mirrors at the Alma-Dungy Community Center. So that's kind of some of the big things that our facility staff has been working on related to recreation. Grounds, not really recreation, but we did build and open 2 new parks at Shiloh and the Susie Jackson Freedom Memorial Garden, both with water features. We have the IAM grounds that we're looking to open up next year, which is a very large city park with a very large water feature underneath the building itself. ARPA related work. We funded lots of athletic work recently with the ARPA funds, so we are grateful to get that money. We top dressed at Bayview, Governors, Ackerman, West Ashley Park Soccer, Bees Landing Baseball, and the multi-purpose fields at Bees Landing. We've done some baseball infield renovation work with that money at West Ashley Park. Hopefully those will be completed at the end of the year. We've also done some extensive tree work using that ARPA money as it relates to athletic fields and courts. James Allen Rec, Maybank Tennis, Bees Landing, Governor's Park, and Johns Island Park, hopefully by the end of the year. Lots of overhanging trees over those fields and courts, which doesn't really help with recreation play. Extensive work at Mary Utsi Playground courts, lots of tree removals in the playground area, around the tennis courts and baseball field. Completed the 4th round of fertilizations in all athletic fields and continue to treat weeds as they show up. Winter weeds start, and we've pre-emerged all the fields as well. Complete infield renovation at Park Shore, including Tilly Grady rolling, redefining the back arch and makes sure the distances and bases were set correctly. Regular field drags and game setups for all scheduled recreation programming, fall field layouts, monitor all irrigation systems, and replace and secure base anchors in multiple locations. Capital projects, I'll try to get through this quickly as well. We have about 49 active capital projects. Carr Richardson Park, which is one of our new neighborhood parks over at Ashleyville, Maryville, will hopefully be completed by the end of the year. We've issued a punch list, hopefully in this day or tomorrow. So if you haven't ridden out there and taken a look at that one, that's going to be a pretty, really cool new waterfront park that will have a rentable and programmable building. So if you haven't been out there to take a look at it, please do. We've completed our tennis and basketball court resurfacing projects. Pickleball court lines added to Mary Utsi, new color coding at courts 3 and 4 in Maybank Tennis Center, backboard court at Charleston Tennis Center, and Mary Utsi courts, 2 basketball courts at Corinne Jones. Those were all resurfaced and relined with new coloring and white lines. Again, more tree trimming. Got a lot of work going on the Greenway, phase 2 Long Creek Bridge replacement. Will start in this 4th quarter, hopefully be completed by 1st quarter 23. We have a multi-use trail on Daniel Island, a little bridge section that is moving through the process with the DOT and TRC. We've got Greenway Bikeway connector. We're turning that project over to the county. That connects the Greenway at Wapu Drive to the Bikeway. It's a new sidewalk, hopefully wider than normal, to connect us up to those 2 facilities and across Savannah Highway. So we've been working on that project for a while. And like I said, we're going to turn over the construction documents to the county, and the county is going to bid it and construct it. Low Country Senior Center, we selected a contractor for some interior upfits to that building. That work is near substantial completion, and I know the senior center management will be very excited when that all comes to fruition. So that's a snapshot into the Parks Department world of all of those different divisions that I explained to y'all just a minute ago. Happy to take any questions regarding any of that, and then we can go into Greenbelt.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Councilmember Shealy. And thank you, Jason. That was an extensive report. Lots going on. Thanks.
Yeah.
2 bleachers at James Island Rec Center. Do you mean inside on the courts, or did you mean Bayview soccer fields?
I read it so fast, I'd have to go back and check it. Hold on.
Jason, that's the inside the gym basketball bleachers. They were stuck in a position we couldn't move them, and so you guys came in and repaired them, and we can now open and close them.
Okay, one thing, it may or not, but the bleachers or the benches and on Bayview, I think they were damaged during COVID, being put in the piles, so they weren't put out all season, spring or fall. So
I will check into that. That's probably going to fall more on me, Councilmember Parker, than on Jason. So let me check into that. That's the player benches?
Correct.
Okay, I'll check.
Thank you. And then I field dragging for the baseball fields. I think I heard the majority of parks, but not Stephen Washington or Westchester.
Yeah, we drag based on the recreation department's programming. We're not able to get everywhere across the city every week. And it's basically, it's really based on the recreation department's schedule. So we try to get to their scheduled games and practices as best as we can. And if it's not on the schedule, then we probably don't make it there because it's not a rec department function or scheduled program.
And Councilmember Parker, I'll jump in to tell you that as in the fall for baseball, since the James Allen Rec Center are the only ball fields, baseball, softball fields on James Allen that have lights, we schedule everything there. Neither Stephen Washington or Thomas Johnson have lighted ball field. And they also didn't have any baseball teams coming out of that park. So we didn't have any baseball use. We did have some Saturdays for the outfields. And we had, they kept the grass mowed and cut there, but we did not have any baseball or softball going on this fall at either one of those fields.
Well, from the recreation department, no, but people still utilize them.
Yeah, we're just not staffed to, and if they're not requesting a permit, then there's nothing on any schedule. So it's all based on staffing and scheduling and permit requests.
Okay, so again, not to get off track here, guys, I'm sorry, but this kind of goes back to as far as our sponsors and things like that. I mean, I have 2 fields on James Island that are in poor shape. People utilize them every day, but they're in poor shape. The dirt's bad. I mean, we've got ball teams using them, whether they should be or not, whether they need a permit. I mean, if that's something we need to work on, but we also, if we are trying to get sponsors, do we need sponsors to maintain, help us with these fields, or can we do it as a city?
Well, it comes down to staffing and funding in the Parks Department and being able to satisfy all the permitted activities. If it's not permitted and if it's not on the recreation schedule, we have no idea that it's going on.
Okay. I mean, just so I know for my, I have to answer to my constituents,
Sure.
Why do these fields look like this when other fields don't? So if that's the answer, because we're not using our rec teams there, but everybody's using them to practice on, or other teams are using them, I mean, we're just not maintaining them because
they're not on a regular schedule. We went through this a number of years ago, probably 10. And before I was in this position and I was deputy, and we came up with an agreement that based on what we could do, that we would work off of the recreation department's schedule that they provide us. And it goes through every single field that they're going to be using, and it gives base setup and pitcher mound length. And, it's a 7-day-a-week project. And it's really not, it's not possible to go through every satellite field that's not programmed and get that work done. It's
okay.
It's not just James Island, it's across the city.
So Lori, maybe that's something either you or the new enterprise manager can look into. I mean, what does a sponsor need to pay to sponsor a field, fix it, utilize it, and have teams, be able to use these fields?
Well, there is a permitting process. So if a team wants to use a field and have it reserved for their use, if it's not being used by the city, they can permit and use it. There's a cost for that. And when you fill that permit out, that goes on the Parks Department's schedule to say, hey, there's baseball at Honey Hill on Saturday, or Stephen Washington, you need to drag and line the field. Then the team, whoever's using it for their reserve purpose, they pay that fee. And then the Parks Department does that. So in that case, that structure is set up. But when groups just go out and use the field without any permit or without reserving it or our knowledge, then it's just kind of open season. And Jason would have to determine what it would cost to do that field on a regular basis. And then we'd have to try to find someone that wanted to pay for it. But then you kind of say, all your ball fields are used. Is there nowhere I can take my 2 kids out and throw with them and have a place? So we try to have some neighborhood parks, and certainly Thomas Johnson and Honey Hill fit that description of limited parking and smaller and off a main road and you know, a ball field that's available for the public to go use or a family to go use without having to pay a fee. We kind of try to find the balance, Councilmember Parker, between those two things. And so the same reason why you don't go to James Allen Rec Center field on a Tuesday at 7, there's going to be games there. And those teams have paid and they're a part of our program. And so they're in there. So that's kind of the balance that we have right now based on the resources that we have allocated to us. And if the city's going to start trying to find money to redo or to drag and line ball fields, then that's, you know, that's kind of a little different than what Jason and I have ever been tagged in doing. And I shouldn't speak for Jason. I can only speak for myself.
That's right.
Say that again. The city, you haven't been dragging and lining ball fields. That's not a.
No, I said just doing those daily or trying to find a sponsor to offset that cost is not something I've ever been tasked with in the recreation department. So the way we have always been resourced is, Lori, the parks department's going to prepare all your fields. Anybody that wants a field prepared has to do a permit or be a part of our city program, and there's revenues coming in off of that. They still mow the grass. They still hit it with a drag. It may be once a week versus James Allen Rec Center should be dragged on a daily basis when we have games. So not all fields are kept to the same procedures based on how those are used. James Allen Rec Center is a regional park that we schedule games at and we put staffing at. Honey Hill or Stephen Washington, that's a neighborhood park that the city is put money into, and we keep the fields and we pick up trash and we pay for the portalet that's out there. We do those kinds of things, but we don't typically play games there. So those fields are not, there's no irrigation there. There's no way to keep that field to the same standard as a ball field that we're playing league games.
Oh, of course. And thank you for that. But just so when was the last time those two fields were drug?
I don't have that in front of me, but again, it's all based on programming and permitting and getting to the work that we're able to provide.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else on parks and facilities? All right. Well, if we can, we'll move on to a Greenbelt update if we could, Jason.
All right. So I'll give you all the current kind of synopsis on what's going on in the world of Greenbelt. There are a number of things on the horizon, and I'll try to, again, interrupt me whenever you feel you need to, but I'm just going to start going through my information here. So the fiscal year 2023 winter Greenbelt cycle is currently open. The city is currently working on a Greenbelt application for a parcel at the corner of Ashley Hall Road and North Woodmere over in West Ashley. The parcel is about a little under 6 acres with nice tree cover and good water frontage on a freshwater pond over there. That fiscal year 23 cycle application deadline is January 27th. There's quite a large amount of work that goes into one of those Greenbelt applications, starting with a letter of intent to the county, landowner intent letter, letters to residents within 300 feet of the property, among a very large application process. There's also another property that's been discussed out there on James Island in coordination with the Open Space Institute. We're waiting to hear back from the Charleston County Parks and Recreation Commission on what they determine is how they would like to address that property. And then we'll determine how to move that one forward from the city point of view. Each of these would have to come through this committee and real estate to have a resolution for its application. So that's kind of like current events in Greenbelt. A little bit of statistics on the entire Greenbelt program. The city of Charleston has a lifetime balance remaining of about $30,104,000 over the life of the Greenbelt. Our current available balance is only $139,000. That's what we have in the black, in the bank, allocated to the city. The city's allocation comes through annually through the county tax process, which is they're on their fiscal year. So about mid-year, we see a little bit more money coming into that allocation. Typically, it's about $1 million to $1.5 million a year. There's a current proposal on the table from the Greenbelt Advisory Board that will go to the Charleston County Council that would limit any forward spending to 10% of the remaining lifetime balance. So if that goes through, we would have a max of $3 million available, and part of the program would require those funds to be paid off before we could then forward spend again. So it's a pay-as-you-come program. And again, we've done some projects most recently since the inception of the second Greenbelt, and we've spent about $9 million of city money. And I can go through that list of projects. So we've got the Stone Oak Preserve on Johns Island, Griffith Tract, Johns Island, Church Creek Park in West Ashley, Howell Avenue parcel over on James Island, Brantley Park with the town of James Island, Fort Pemberton on James Island, and then the Ross Tract Johns Island Park expansion. So that's kind of Greenbelt 101 in less than 5 minutes. I'm on the Greenbelt Advisory Board, and we meet typically monthly, and there's lots of things going on with Greenbelt right now. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Jason, did you mention Bear Swamp and Woodland in that list? Is it
the projects that is read off were just recent purchases that were part of the current Greenbelt program. All of those projects that the land that you mentioned were part of the original Greenbelt inception, which is a little bit different now.
Okay. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Councilmember Shealy. Jason, the Ashley Hall Road, you said you're in the process of submitting. How much is that? What's the dollar amount on that?
The advertised asking price is $350,000, and we haven't yet negotiated any deals with them. And I don't believe we've reached out to their realtors yet, but that was in the process. And that project met almost every single bit of the criteria in the Parks and Rec master plan. So it's interesting to take that Parks and Rec master plan and actually use it and measure this property against what the plan says. And it was pretty highly rated. So that was very cool.
So if I understood you correctly, the max that we could get in 2023 is 139,000, assuming they approve whatever we would apply for.
That's what we currently have allocated. Since this is a pay-as-you-go plan and none of the money was bonded up front like it was in the previous Greenbelt, we've always been encouraged by the Greenbelt staff to make an application if we saw a property that fit the need for the Parks Department or was in jeopardy of being sold for something else. So if you look at some of those other projects that we purchased over the past couple of years, we did forward spend on almost every single one of them. And for anything that we currently tried to go after will be a forward spend as well.
Okay, great.
So there's right now, the Greenbelt, both urban and rural, there's $25 million in that Greenbelt bank account right now.
That we can go after.
Yeah, of course, a lot of it's allocated to the rural and other municipalities. But as I said, the Greenbelt staff has always encouraged us, if we saw something that fit the need of the city, that we should go for it. And our allocation would catch up. And typically we have waited for our allocation to catch up, or we've bridged fund. For instance, the Fort Pemberton project, we went through the Conservation Bank, which is a state organization, nonprofit, and they purchased that property on our behalf, along with our current allocation at the time, and then we paid them back. over the next couple of years as our allocations were realized. So that was another way we did that one.
So if I may add, Mr. Chairman, just trying to be clear, Jason is saying that the county has total about 25 million in the bank, but only 100 and something thousand of that 25 million is ours. But because they have that balance, you know, at any given time, everybody hadn't spent all their money, so they've got a balance sitting there. They allow us to apply forward thinking, forward spending in advance of our annual seat or allotment. And hence, if they're going to say we can only apply for up to 10% of what we expect over the whole lifetime, what we can go for right now would be up to about $3 million worth of purchases. I think the two things that are even under consideration are nowhere near that $3 million. But then again, you know, if we end up buying a part of Harmony, might come in handy.
Right. And to your point, Mayor, County Council hasn't approved any of the forward spending limits yet. So, and when these projects come through the Greenbelt Advisory Board, they go through a subcommittee process, which I was on that subcommittee for a little while when it first was created. And then we kind of trade back and forth with the other municipality representatives. But that hasn't gone to County Council yet. And County Council can approve or deny pretty much any application that comes through, regardless of how the advisory board makes a recommendation on it.
Okay. Anybody else on Greenbelt update? Thank you for that. Anything else to come before this committee? Any other questions, comments, anything else from anyone? Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Councilmember Shealy. I know we talked a little about this, and I think we're going to have one more Recreation Committee meeting before next year, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we are scheduled for the third Monday in December, so
Right.
we're regularly scheduled. So that would be the 19th. So.
Okay, so we'll have one more, but I just would again like to request that we, at the beginning of the year, we just start discussing a bond referendum as far as parks and recreation go. Jason and Lori, I know that's something that might be a process, might take some time, but I certainly want to start these discussions earlier in the year than later.
Well, in January, we will have a meeting where we're going to bring back, some of the people that helped us do our park master plan and go through it with us. But that'll be our January meeting, and we'll have Tom O'Rourke with us and maybe some others that will go through this and help us better understand this this master plan and maybe help us move forward with those types of ideas that you're talking about.
Perfect. Okay. And then the Recreation Commission, do we hear from them at a certain point throughout the year?
So they meet once every 2 months, and then if they have action items, you do hear from them in a report out. They haven't had any action items in the last 2 meetings. As a matter of fact, we didn't have quorum for the last meeting, but we haven't had any action. But unless there's something they're reporting out to you, then there's not a report. I can ask them to provide you a report. We have a meeting scheduled this month in another 2 weeks.
Okay. I mean, I think that would be great to hear
Sure.
from that commission.
Sure. They're probably going to tell you they'd love to talk about the money for the Parks and Rec master plan, and they want more pickleball courts. But yes, I will be happy to get a report from them.
All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Gregory.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. Did we ever approve the plan? We accepted the plan, correct? And what we're doing now is trying to see what portions of the plan we can just move forward with.
That's correct. Yes,
I just wanted to make sure, because I think it gets back to Council Member Parker's bond issue. I mean, you can't, there's no need for bonding if we haven't done X, Y, Z with regard to the plan. And I think the approach that we're using is a great one. Don't get me wrong. I just want to make sure that it's clear that we did accept the plan, but the overall plan has not been approved by council, because what would that cost us? $100 million or something?
Yeah.
I think if my recollection serves me correctly, you did adopt or approve the plan, but the plan just made recommendations. There was no finite program in the plan that said, if you adopt this, then we have to do this. That's what that January workshop meeting will be, is to talk about the recommendations of the plan. And,
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, and if we can pull that just to verify for me, Jason, that we did in fact approve or accept the recommendations, whatever that is, just for the record. And the other thing, Jason, both myself and the chairman has been on James Island to take a look at the 19 acres off of Folly Road. You're familiar with it?
the Dill Tract.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And I know that Councilmember Parker, as well as Councilmember Appel, are also both aware of this opportunity. I just want to make sure that when we talk about green belt funds, that we don't do it at the expense of this potential opportunity, just for the record. And perhaps at our next, Mr. Chairman, at our next Recreation Committee meeting, if we can have a presentation to sort of share with the rest of the committee members what we're talking about, because it is an opportunity. And whenever we can have access to the water for the public, I think it's a good thing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and Councilman Gregory, I think you're talking about the Bradham Road Park.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not the Dill Tract, the Bradham Road.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
But I would appreciate a Dill's Tract update. I've, done a little research too, but I'll get with you, Councilmember Gregory. Maybe we can talk about Dill's Tract, but I think you were talking about Bradham. Yeah.
Bradham, yes, exactly.
Okay. And
So can we put that on the agenda for the next recreation?
for Bradham, yes, we can do that, Bradham.
Sure. Thank you.
Certainly. And they could have, at this time, as Jason Kronsberg was saying, they're presenting to Charleston County PPRC tonight. So we needed to kind of see what happens there, and then bring it forward. So,
and we have till January to submit any application for green belt funds, right, Jason? Have I heard you correctly?
Right. The application deadline would be the end of January. And in this case, the Open Space Institute has been heading up that particular piece of land. And if the PRC, whatever they determine is the next step, and if the will of City Council to do a resolution to support the Open Space Institute's application for city funds, then it would come to council.
Okay, thank you.
and Jennifer, I think you just sat in for Brittany, but I saw you pop up. Did you have anything before we go?
We're having, and this might have been mentioned earlier in the meeting, but we're holding January 26th at 4 o'clock for a full city council workshop on the recreation master plan. So that will be in front of all of council. And I think that's a Thursday. So it's a couple of months away, but it'll be here before you know it.
It will be, no doubt. Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right. Anything else to come before this committee? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you so much. Hope you have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.